Envision the most joyous day of your existence, yet the ones you cherish most are conspicuously absent. Not your guardians, not your sibling, not even your closest companion. What is the reason behind this? It is an affair so trivial, so astonishing, that you must listen to the entire tale to truly grasp it. Before I delve into the details of what transpired, I urge you to subscribe, give a thumbs up, share this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments, because after this, you're bound to have plenty to discuss. And believe me, by the conclusion, you'll understand how a single necklace, a solitary betrayal, and a meticulously executed plan transformed everything. Shall we commence? My name is Ethan. I am 28 years old, and I tied the knot last Saturday in what was meant to be the happiest day of my life. A day you envision reminiscing about when you are old and gray. A day that others assure you will pass in a whirlwind of laughter, love, and family. And for the most part, it was just that, except for the glaring, vacant seats that were intended for those I cherished most. Each time my gaze drifted in their direction, that familiar, heavy ache settled in my chest. And here's the detail that continues to twist my stomach. Not one member of my family showed up. Neither my parents, nor my sister, nor even my best friend, Jake, who has been like a brother to me since childhood. Instead, they all attended my sister's engagement party. Yes, you read that correctly. My sister, Ashley, chose to hold her engagement celebration on the very same day as my wedding. Despite having known my date for 6 months, my family made their choice clear. It was anything but discreet. The invitations to her celebration were dispatched 2 months prior to my wedding, adorned with save-the-date cards that practically shouted for attention, embellished with gold foil, elegant script, and polished photographs of her and her fiancé sharing a kiss against a sunset backdrop on a rooftop. In the interim, as I dispatched my invitations, the responses I received were nothing short of terse and uncomfortable. My mother replied with a hesitant, "We'll have to see if we can make it work, dear." My father, on the other hand, chose silence, merely sending a thumbs-up emoji 3 days later. I attempted to convince myself that I was merely overanalyzing the situation. Ashley has perpetually held the title of the favorite, the golden child who seemed infallible. She received the larger bedroom during our childhood, the car on her 16th birthday, and the unending, steadfast focus of our parents. I had grown accustomed to taking a back seat, yet I held a naive hope that my wedding would stand apart. Just 2 weeks before the momentous occasion, I reached out to my mother to finalize their travel arrangements. After a prolonged pause, she finally spoke. "Anna, regarding the wedding, your sister's engagement party falls on the same day. Attending both events poses quite a challenge for us." Initially, I chuckled, believing she was merely jesting. It turned out she was serious. "So, you're not coming?" I asked, my voice betraying me in a manner I despised. "It's just that her future in-laws are flying in from California. It's such a rare opportunity to have everyone together," she replied, as though that somehow excused her absence from my wedding altogether. "Mother, this is my wedding. My singular wedding." She let out a sigh, as if I were being unreasonable. "You'll come to grasp it when you have children of your own. We simply cannot occupy 2 spaces simultaneously." I ended the call without uttering a farewell. My hands trembled uncontrollably, nearly causing the phone to slip from my grasp. I chose not to share the news with my fiancé, Lauren, immediately. I couldn't bear the thought of dampening her joy. In the days that followed, I found myself lost in a haze of uncomfortable exchanges with family, each one delivering the same disappointing news. Jake, my best man, reached out the night before the wedding, his voice heavy with regret. "I'm really sorry, man," he said, "but Ashley's party is kind of a big deal. I can't miss it." As the day arrived, I strolled down the aisle, a smile fixed upon my face, the sort that masks the turmoil within. Lauren appeared radiant, as if she had stepped straight from a dream. Our friends enveloped the space with their warmth and laughter, and I endeavored to center my attention on them. Yet, each time my gaze drifted to the vacant row of chairs, a heaviness settled in my chest. The ceremony unfolded seamlessly, and for a fleeting spell, I managed to push the pain aside. It was only during the reception, as we sliced into the cake, that the weight of reality descended upon me once more. My phone, resting on the table beside me, suddenly illuminated with a message from my mom. "We need to talk." Before I could fully grasp the weight of her words, the screen erupted with a flurry of notifications, each call demanding my attention. 52 missed calls in under an hour. My hand stilled around the cake knife, the laughter surrounding me fading into a distant murmur. Lauren caught the expression on my face and leaned in, whispering, "What's wrong?" I hesitated, words eluding me for a moment. I found myself fixated on the phone, my heart racing, questioning what could be so pressing that my mother, absent from my wedding, was now so eager to connect. Then, the phone vibrated once more, delivering a message that sent my stomach plummeting. It was from my cousin Amanda, the sole family member who sometimes offered me fragments of reality, while the others preferred to shroud me in shadows. Her message read, "You won't believe what's happening here. Call me when you can, but don't tell anyone I told you." That single line was enough to make my pulse quicken. I refrained from responding immediately, aware that doing so could draw her into the tempest that was gathering. Yet, the unease in my gut hinted that it was connected to Ashley's engagement party. I tucked my phone away, striving to preserve the moment, but my thoughts continued to whirl relentlessly. I scarcely registered the DJ's voice beckoning us to our first dance. Holding Lauren close, I swayed to the rhythm, but my mind was occupied with images of my parents, my sister, and my so-called best friend, all assembled in a grand hall, toasting with champagne and posing for photographs. Meanwhile, I found myself celebrating one of the most significant days of my life in their absence. After the dance concluded, I made my way to the restroom, stepping outside into the refreshing embrace of the night air. The melodies from the reception hall faded into the background. At last, I dialed Amanda's number. She answered on the very first ring. "Ethan, they're discussing you," she whispered, her tone hushed as if she were concealing herself in a shadowy corner. "They're claiming you orchestrated your wedding to overshadow Ashley's momentous occasion. Your mother has been spreading the word that you did it intentionally." I stood there stunned. What? This is utterly absurd. I had declared my date long before she even said yes. "I understand," Amanda replied swiftly, "but they're portraying it as if you aim to overshadow her. And here's the kicker, your dad has been informing her fiancé's family that you're not particularly close to them anymore, which explains why none of them showed up." My mouth went dry. They're crafting a new narrative in real time. "But that's not the end of it," she pressed on. "Jake has arrived. He's been circulating the notion that he couldn't fulfill the role of your best man due to your supposed difficulties with the guest list. It's as if he's implying you didn't even desire his presence." For a fleeting moment, words eluded me. Jake, the one with whom I've navigated every significant chapter of my life, stood there at my sister's engagement party, disparaging me to acquaintances I hardly recognized. Amanda paused before continuing, "And your mom's on the line because, well, I'm not entirely sure of the details, but it seems she requires your assistance with something for Ashley this evening." She claimed it was urgent. That explained her incessant calls. The absurdity of it struck me with the force of a slap. They chose to forego my wedding in favor of my sister's engagement party, and now, amidst the celebration of my reception, they expected me to resolve an issue for her? The urge to hang up and retreat inside, to act as if I had never received the call, was overwhelming. Yet, the anger surged within me, relentless and fierce. This had been the narrative of my life. They had wounded me, casting me as the antagonist in their narrative, only to seek my aid when it suited them. Time and again I acquiesced, for they were my kin. Yet that night, enveloped in darkness, with the distant echoes of clinking glasses and laughter from two separate festivities, I sensed a transformation within me. I haven't shared the news with Lauren yet. I wished to spare her from the burden of my family's turmoil, yet the heaviness of it pressed down on my heart. As I stepped back into the room, vibrant melodies filled the air, friends swayed to the rhythm, and for a fleeting instant, I allowed myself to smile. Yet, every now and then, my phone would vibrate once more. Another call, another message, my mother's name illuminating the screen, a stark reminder that those who ought to have stood by me had opted for another path, yet still anticipated my unwavering availability. As the night drew to a close, I found myself with 68 missed calls, and the final voicemail they left clenched my hands into tight fists. As Lauren and I returned to our hotel suite that night, fatigue enveloped us. It was the sort of weariness that stems from hours of forced smiles, all while my heart silently fractured. Just as I was about to fling my phone onto the dresser, intending to leave it until morning, a new message from Amanda caught my eye. This time, it wasn't a paragraph that greeted me. Instead, it was merely a photo. As I tapped it open, a wave of unease washed over me, twisting my stomach in knots. In that moment, captured in stunning clarity, my sister Ashley stood at her engagement party, adorned with my late grandmother's wedding necklace. This was no ordinary piece of jewelry. It was the cherished heirloom I had been promised since my teenage years. When I was 19, my grandmother took me aside, just before her passing, and said, "Anna, this is for the woman you marry. I want her to wear it on your wedding day." She even made sure to include it in her will. The necklace had rested in a velvet box within my mother's safe for years, a forgotten treasure. When I inquired about it a few months back, she had replied, "Oh, it's not in good condition anymore. Best not to use it." Yet here it was, now adorning Ashley's neck, its brilliance harmonizing flawlessly with her designer dress. And the most disheartening detail? In the backdrop of the photograph, there was Jake, my closest companion, grinning beside her, a glass of champagne in hand. I found myself frozen, gazing at it, my heartbeat echoing in my ears. Lauren caught sight of my reaction. "What is it?" she asked softly. I hesitated, aware of the pact we had made to keep the day focused on us, not on the chaos of my family. As I revealed the photo to her, I noticed her jaw clench. "That's the necklace your grandmother left for you," she said. I simply nodded in response. My voice was constricted. My mother claimed it was broken. She was not truthful. She presented it to Ashley for her engagement celebration. Lauren collapsed onto the bed, her hands folding in her lap. "Anna, that's not merely disrespectful. That's theft." Just then, my phone buzzed once more, another call from Mom. I let it slip to voicemail, yet curiosity gnawed at me. I activated the speakerphone. Her voice resonated throughout the space. Initially bright and cheerful, it soon took on a more piercing tone. "Ethan, I find myself puzzled by your silence. This evening, Ashley encountered a minor hiccup. It appears the caterer has overbooked, leaving us lacking in a few essentials. Please reach out to that restaurant you're familiar with in town. Also, just so you know, I gifted her grandma's necklace for her to wear something special tonight. Let's keep this low-key. It's merely a piece of jewelry. Call me back." At that moment, I believe something within me genuinely broke. It wasn't merely the absence at my wedding that stung. It wasn't solely the whispers and the fabrications. It was the way she could take something so profoundly personal, something intricately linked to my grandmother's memory, and pass it to my sister as if it were inconsequential. The weight of that betrayal settled in gradually, like ice coursing through my veins. All those years spent swallowing my pride, convincing myself they never intended to cause me pain, crafting excuses, it dawned on me that they never regarded me as someone deserving of protection. Not even on the most significant day of my life. I lingered in silence for what felt like an eternity, the phone resting heavily in my palm, before I finally placed it down. My thoughts began to shift beyond the initial shock, beyond the pain, and into a realm that felt colder, more precise. This time, I resolved not to let it slip away. The following morning, sunlight filtered through the hotel curtains, yet it seemed subdued, as if the world had lost a touch of its vibrancy. Lauren lay asleep beside me, her hand gently clasping mine, but my thoughts wandered far from the serene comfort of that instant. I glanced at my phone. The onslaught continued unabated. 93 missed calls, 22 voicemails, and a flurry of texts, some from my mother, others from my father, and a handful from distant relatives who had long since faded from my life. Each message echoed a singular refrain: "You need to call your sister." There were no congratulations on your wedding, no expressions of regret for our absence. Instead, I was met with orders, demands, and guilt-laden messages that churned my stomach. I finally listened to another voicemail, this one from my father. His tone was sharp, tinged with irritation. "Ethan, I can't fathom what's come over you, but neglecting your family on a night like this is nothing short of immature. We had anticipated a greater sense of maturity from you in this new chapter of your life. Please reach out to your mother and take the appropriate steps. It's time to do what's right," as though they had acted in my best interest. That day ought to have been brimming with brunches, laughter, and the joyous recounting of the previous night's highlights. Instead, I found myself burdened by a heaviness in my heart and a haze clouding my thoughts. We ventured to a quaint cafe by the water for a serene breakfast. Despite Lauren's efforts to maintain a light-hearted conversation, I noticed the concern in her eyes as they sought mine. Upon returning to the hotel, I perched on the edge of the bed, my gaze fixed on the small overnight bag I had prepared for the wedding. Nestled among the neatly folded garments lay an empty velvet box, the one that once held my grandmother's cherished necklace. I had carried it along, envisioning the delight on Lauren's face when she saw the genuine article. Yet, upon hearing from my mother that it was marred, I chose to conceal it. Now, it served as a harsh reminder of the scant regard my family held for me. I held back the tears, though I anticipated their arrival. Yet, they never fell. Instead, a hollow, gnawing void resided within me where something once thrived. In that emptiness, delicate threads of thought began to intertwine. Quiet, subtle, yet unwavering. I haven't shared this with Lauren yet, but I've begun to collect screenshots. Every message from my parents. Every picture Amanda sent me from that engagement party. Each voicemail, particularly those laced with manipulation, found its way into a folder on my laptop, labeled with a simple, yet foreboding, "for later." That afternoon, as Lauren drifted into slumber, I occupied a seat in the hotel lobby, my laptop aglow, feigning interest in honeymoon destinations while my mind wandered elsewhere. In truth, I was perusing the precise clauses of my grandmother's will. The document that clearly stated the necklace was to be entrusted to me. I still possessed a scanned copy from years past, a remnant of the time I assisted my grandmother with her paperwork. And there it was, laid out in simple terms. I bequeath my wedding necklace to my grandson, Ethan Harper, to present to his bride on their wedding day. In that moment, I realized that my mother's actions were not merely a matter of ethics. It was a matter of legal ambiguity. Yet, I refrained from abruptly closing the laptop or reaching out to confront anyone. I understood the implications. If I were to lash out now, they would twist it just as they always have. Ethan is overreacting. Ethan is ungrateful. Ethan is causing quite a stir. I offered a polite smile as the hotel staff extended their congratulations to us. I shared a single, thoughtfully selected wedding photo online. While I chose to disregard the multitude of messages from family inquiring about my silence on the matter, I maintained a facade of tranquility. Yet beneath the surface, an unfamiliar sensation, more piercing and frigid than anything I had previously experienced, began to crystallize within me. They believed they had escaped unscathed. Little did they know, I was poised to ensure they would be blindsided. Upon returning from our brief honeymoon a week later, my attention turned sharply. Rather than succumbing to that empty feeling, I channeled my energy into the aspects of my life I could influence. My marriage, my career, and the life we were constructing, overshadowed by my family's disapproval. The initial shift occurred at work. I had been a mid-level project manager at a rapidly expanding marketing firm. Respected, yet quietly lingering in the shadows, I was never quite loud enough to catch the attention of those above. But that soon shifted. I found myself staying late, I took on projects that others shied away from. In just 3 months, I secured a significant client that increased our department's revenue by almost 40%. The CEO acknowledged my efforts in front of the whole company and elevated me to the position of director. Upon stepping into the new role, a substantial salary boost accompanied my journey, prompting me to delve into serious investments. My previous flirtation with real estate had laid the groundwork, but now, equipped with ample resources, I seized the opportunity to acquire not one, but 3 rental properties nestled in prime locations. Remarkably, within a year, the passive income generated from these ventures began to rival my salary. Lauren and I acquired a house on the outskirts of the city, a modern abode bathed in sunlight, featuring a home office that offered a view of the river. Our circle of friends expanded as well. Freed from the relentless negativity of my family, there was newfound room for authentic connections. We organized dinner parties, weekend retreats, and charity events through Lauren's art network. The individuals we encountered recognized us for our true selves, not merely as a footnote in a family hierarchy, but as a couple who had created something meaningful together. It was at one of those gatherings, a fundraiser held in our home, that I came to understand the distance I had traveled. In the living room, with a glass of wine cradled in my hand, I caught snippets of conversation between 2 guests, marveling at how they believed Ethan had it all figured out. A smile crept across my face. Little did they know the extent to which my own peace stemmed from choosing to distance myself from those who relentlessly sought to drag me down. In the interim, Amanda and I maintained a subtle connection. She would share brief updates occasionally, revealing how Ashley's wedding planning was descending into disarray. My parents would often grumble about the distance that had grown between us, their frustration palpable as I arrived at family gatherings, wearing a mask of normalcy. I remained disengaged, never mustering the courage to defend my silence. The quiet played to my advantage. They lacked the ammunition for their theatrics, no new eruptions to distort into their narrative. Meanwhile, I was meticulously recording, collecting receipts, photographs, and every small fragment of evidence that illustrated the complete story of their actions. One afternoon, nearly a year post-wedding, I received an email from a prominent national business magazine. They expressed interest in featuring me in an article highlighting young professionals who had attained financial independence before the age of 35. The feature promised a glossy photo shoot and an interview delving into my investments, career progression, and philanthropic endeavors. As it graced the newsstands, I sensed my family had taken notice. Amanda verified it. My mother, it seems, purchased 3 copies merely to ascertain if it was truly him. Yet, silence enveloped me. No words of congratulations. No sign of acknowledgement. Only silence remained. The sort that weighed down with the burden of pride, unacknowledged, and simmering resentment. Their approval no longer held any significance for me. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed that my burgeoning success was merely a prelude to a grander scheme. The necklace, the deceptions, the forsaken wedding, they lingered in the shadows, unforgotten. My next move would ensure they remained etched in memory indelibly. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, nearly 18 months post-wedding, when the turning point arrived. Seated at my desk, I was engrossed in reviewing contracts for a new commercial property acquisition when an email from Amanda appeared in my inbox. The subject line was brief yet heavy with implication. I thought you might appreciate this. Attached is a PDF containing high-resolution scans of the inventory list from my grandmother's estate, complete with signatures. The necklace is listed there, unmistakably, with my name beside it as the designated inheritor. Yet, it was not this detail that truly seized my focus. At the conclusion of the document lay a collection of signatures, among them my mother's, accompanied by a note that proclaimed, "Released to Ashley Harper for temporary use, June 15th. TOB returned to rightful owner." Temporary use. June 15th marked the evening of Ashley's engagement celebration. This meant that my mother had, in writing, recognized the necklace as belonging to me. Yet, almost 2 years later, it remained unreturned. I reclined in my chair, my gaze fixed on the screen. My heart raced. This had transcended mere emotional betrayal. This document served as a written, legally binding acknowledgement. That very week, destiny dealt me another hand. Through my professional endeavors, I began collaborating with a renowned event planner known for orchestrating opulent weddings in Manhattan. One afternoon, as we sipped our coffee, she nonchalantly revealed that she had just secured a grand wedding for a client with outlandish requests. The bride's name was Ashley Harper. I maintained a calm facade, yet my thoughts were in a whirlwind. Ashley's wedding loomed just 6 months away, promising to be a grand affair, lavish, extravagant, and undeniably public. The planner, oblivious to the ties that bound them, enthusiastically detailed the exclusive estate chosen for the occasion, a venue that required years of advance booking. The bride's desire for perfection echoed in the air, all in the name of preserving the family image. It was nearly flawless. I possessed two crucial elements: irrefutable evidence that the necklace was mine, and privileged insight into the most significant event of my sister's existence. In stark contrast to my own wedding, her momentous occasion was set to be brimming with extended family, professional acquaintances, and a flurry of media attention. I began to make subtle preparations. I enlisted the services of a discreet yet exceptionally talented attorney, not to initiate a lawsuit just yet, but to meticulously examine the will, the signed release document, and every fragment of evidence I had preserved since the day of my wedding. He validated my suspicions. I possessed a compelling legal case to recover the necklace, and should I choose to, I could seek damages for the wrongful retention of inherited property. Yet, I found myself unprepared to initiate any proceedings at this moment. Timing was crucial. I started to frequent more networking events throughout the city, quietly broadening my connections into realms that I recognized intersected with my family's. Influential business figures they held in high regard. Reporters who chronicled the grand affairs of society nuptials. Even the proprietor of the estate where Ashley's wedding was set to unfold. I never revealed my ties to her. I ensured my presence in the right circles, engaging with the right individuals, and leaving lasting impressions. As spring approached, I found myself not only in a more advantageous position than ever before, but also in a state of subtle influence. And the individuals I was now linked to? They would be present at Ashley's wedding. The last piece clicked into place when Amanda called one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anna, I probably shouldn't share this, but Mom has been boasting about how she's safeguarding the necklace for Ashley to wear on her special day. She claims that you no longer value family traditions, suggesting it's best for her to take her leave." I expressed my gratitude to Amanda, ended the call, and lingered in silence for what felt like an eternity. The scene was perfectly arranged. The date had been set in stone. The audience was assured. And for the first time in what felt like ages, the familiar ache in my chest began to dissipate, giving way to a serene, unwavering confidence. As my moment approached, it became clear that they would not merely part with the necklace, they would forfeit the very story they had meticulously crafted over the years. The morning of Ashley's wedding arrived, bathed in warmth and brilliance, illuminated by that enchanting golden light that every photographer yearns to capture. I rose with the dawn, not due to an invitation. There was none, naturally, but because the scheme I had meticulously crafted for more than a year was at last set to unfold. The morning found me in my home office, poring over the folder on my desk for what I hoped would be the final time. Within the confines of the folder lay a collection of meticulously arranged documents. There was my grandmother's will, the signed temporary release, a paper bearing my mother's signature, dated photographs of the necklace captured at Ashley's engagement party, and correspondence from my attorney. The final page stood out as the piece de resistance, a formal letter directed to the owner of the wedding venue, the event planner, and, most crucially, to Ashley herself. It was a formal request for the swift return of the necklace to its rightful owner, referencing legal stipulations and accompanied by a stern warning regarding the repercussions of failure to comply. The timing was of the essence. My attorney, a composed and refined gentleman named Vincent, was set to deliver these documents to Dianever at the venue at exactly 3:15 p.m., coinciding with the arrival of guests and the commencement of pre-ceremony photographs. Yet, that was merely a fragment of the whole tale. In the weeks preceding this moment, I had discreetly alerted a lifestyle journalist I had come to know, a figure celebrated for her coverage of high society affairs, yet possessing an uncanny ability to uncover the intrigue lurking beneath the surface of elegance. I withheld some details, sharing just enough to spark her curiosity, hinting that the heirloom necklace adorning the bride today was not, in fact, legally hers to wear. She had conducted her own investigation, verifying that my name was linked to the inheritance record. She made no promises, yet I recognized her kind. If an incident were to occur at the wedding, she would be prepared. At precisely 3:17, my phone vibrated. It was Vincent. "It's done," he stated succinctly. "And Ethan, your sister, did not handle it gracefully." Via Amanda, who was discreetly messaging me from the bridesmaid suite, I received the unfolding details. It seems that Vincent's entrance with the documents sent shockwaves through the wedding staff. The event planner perused the letter, her complexion draining of color, and swiftly ushered Ashley to a more private corner. My mother attempted to dismiss the situation, labeling it merely a misunderstanding. However, when Vincent gestured toward the signed release and will, the planner solemnly cautioned them that proceeding with an event amidst contested property could expose the venue to significant liability. This meant, without a shadow of a doubt, that Ashley could not make her way down the aisle adorned with that necklace. Amanda's messages flooded in, a torrent of frustration as she unleashed her fury at Mom in the dressing room. Jake attempts to soothe her, yet she retaliates by hurling a hairbrush in his direction. Oh my, they are in the process of removing the necklace at this very moment. And then, the moment that compelled me to lean back in my chair, utterly satisfied. The photographer has just finished packing up the jewelry shots, her eyes glistening with tears. I refrained from posting anything. I refrained from gloating. Instead, I remained patient. By 6 p.m., the initial murmurs had begun to spread across the internet. Grainy images capture a bride, her expression taut, devoid of her cherished adornment, while ambiguous captions hint at sudden alterations and familial discord. The journalist I had alerted published a brief yet impactful piece the following morning. The absent heirloom, the subtle tension woven into the fabric of yesterday's opulent Harper wedding. The piece refrained from casting me as the antagonist. It simply wasn't necessary. It straightforwardly presented the facts, cited the will, and concluded with the statement, "The necklace is now back in the rightful possession of the grandson it was intended for." Indeed, it was, nestled in the velvet box on my desk, where it had always belonged. The calls from my parents began almost instantly after the article was published. I chose not to respond. This time, the silence belonged to me. The repercussions came swiftly and more brutally than I had anticipated. As the week drew to a close, the narrative had garnered attention from a few local publications. While it wasn't monumental, it was sufficient to ripple through the social circles my parents held dear. Those who had once lavished them with admiration at fundraisers now seemed to have other commitments. Ashley's new in-laws, once beaming with pride at the prospect of joining what they believed to be a refined and respectable family, now seethed with anger over the public disgrace that marred her wedding. In whispered phone conversations, Amanda confided in me about the stifling tension that had enveloped their home. My mother, in turn, directed her frustration at my father, accusing him of failing to manage the situation discreetly. My father held my mother responsible for signing the release document initially. In the meantime, Ashley attempted to craft a different narrative online, sharing vintage photos of herself adorned with the necklace from her engagement party, accompanied by ambiguous quotes about the significance of family over material possessions. Yet, the comments beneath her posts revealed a contrasting reality. Uncomfortable questions lingered in the air, with some even tagging me, expressing their relief that justice had finally been served. Jake, my so-called best friend, was not spared from the fallout either. He had been among Ashley's most vocal supporters following the engagement party, yet the article exposed the falsehood of his claims regarding my alleged drama without guests. A number of our mutual friends severed ties with him entirely. When I encountered him months later at a networking event, he was unable to meet my gaze. The necklace remained in my grasp, precisely where it was destined to reside, yet it had transformed into something greater than a mere heirloom. It stood as a symbol, a testament that I was no longer bound to their dictates. I found no necessity for their approval, their invitations, or their interpretation of reality to shape my identity. After that moment, I ceased all communication with my parents. It wasn't merely out of anger, though that was certainly present. Rather, it dawned on me that there was nothing further to express. They had made their decision the moment they chose to forego my wedding. All I had done was ensure that the world recognized it for what it truly was. A year later, on our anniversary, Lauren adorned herself with the necklace for the first time. We ventured out for dinner, just the two of us, tucked away in a serene corner of the city. As the light danced upon the gold and diamonds, memories of my grandmother flooded my mind, her dreams for me, and the journey it took, nearly losing everything, to finally embrace this moment. Lauren noticed my gaze and smiled. "It seems as though this place has become home, doesn't it?" I nodded, words unnecessary. The reality was straightforward. They had removed themselves from my life, and I had at last shut the door on them. Not only did I secure it, but I also discarded the key entirely.